Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video on my channel. If you're new here, my name is Julia and I'm all about everything to do with personal development and mindset. I live my life with a 2.0 mentality, meaning that I'm always striving to learn and grow and become the most authentic version of myself. And in the spirit of living my 2.0 and discovering my most authentic self, I am so excited for today's video. So in today's video, it's going to be a collaboration. It's going to be a journey of self-discovery, uncovering new layers, learning more about myself that I didn't know before through the means of astrology. So later on in this video, I am going to be having a one-on-one call with my good friend Jesi, who is going to be giving me an astrology reading. And I've never had an astrology reading before, so this will be my first time. I'm someone who's always been pretty intrigued by astrology, but to be honest, never really dove deep into it and learned a lot about it. So I know a little more than the basics. I feel like the basics are kind of when you just know your sun sign based on the month you're born. I know a little bit more than that, so I consider myself to be a little bit more intermediate when it comes to my astrology knowledge. I know my sun sign, my rising sign, and my moon sign, and it's commonly referred to as your big three, and it kind of just takes you more deeply into who you are from an astrology standpoint. Because when it comes to astrology and all the different levels and nuances of it and all the depthness of it, the sun sign is really just scratching the surface. So I have over the years learned a little bit more about my astrology by learning more about my sun, my moon, and my rising, but there's still so much more that I can learn. There's all these parts of astrology that I know nothing about, like the planetary alignment with the different houses from the time you were born. I don't really know much about that side of things, so I'm so excited to dive in deeper and learn more from Jesi today about my astrology. And like I said, when it comes to astrology, I'm no expert, but I'm happy to share just a little bit of the basics based on what I know about my astrology, and maybe that can help you learn more about astrology too, if you're interested in diving into your chart and learning more about yourself. So I think where everybody starts with astrology is knowing their sun sign. So that is the sign in the month that you were born. So for me, I was born in November and my sun sign is Scorpio. And growing up, I didn't really have a good relationship with my opinion about my sun sign being Scorpio, because a lot of the times, if you're just someone who has very little knowledge of astrology and all you know is just looking at your basic horoscope based on your sun sign, Scorpios don't really have the greatest representation when it comes to those kind of surface level horoscope kind of things, which is what I grew up kind of searching and looking into. And because of that, I just really didn't relate to being a Scorpio for the longest time. Scorpios on a very basic level are often described as having a lot of negative connotations, in my opinion. Like, they're known as being possessive and manipulative, holding grudges, and when it comes to their personality, they're often described as being like more like the goth kind of person, like loving dark colors and black, and their whole favorite holiday is Halloween. Like, that's like generally the surface level description of Scorpios. And I didn't relate to that growing up. I never really related to the typical description of a Scorpio. And it wasn't until I learned about my big three that I got a more clear and better picture of who I am from an astrology standpoint. And it really started making more sense to me. So I thought we'd just start off a little bit with the basics, just in case you want to learn like the basics of what it means to have a sun sign and to have a moon sign and to have a rising sign. So I just did a little quick search on my phone just so I can read out what this all means and explain it in a good way. So in astrology, your sun sign represents your core identity, ego, and life's purpose. So that's the sign, like I said, is in the month you're born. That's your sun sign. Whereas your moon sign signifies your emotional nature, instincts, and subconscious inner world. And your rising sign is how others tend to perceive you, so how you come off personality-wise to others. So for example, my big three is obviously sun is Scorpio, like I already mentioned. My rising sign is Aries, and my moon sign is Aquarius. And from the little I have talked to people about astrology that know a little more than me, they've told me that that combination is a little bit more difficult than maybe some other combinations because I don't have any grounding energy in my big three. So sometimes that means that I need to work more on my grounding. And that actually makes a lot of sense to me because I'm someone who loves grounding, being in nature. And I feel like the reason I crave that so much is because I don't really have that in my big three. Even just that realization just gave me more insight into who I am from an astrology standpoint and started making a lot more sense to me when I started looking at those big three and what they represent. So I also wanted to search just a little description of my big three for each sign just to kind of give you a better idea and see if you believe, just from knowing me, what you know about me and this channel and what I do on social media, if you think that my big three makes sense to you as someone who's perceiving me online. So a Scorpio sun is characterized by having intense passion, deep emotionality, powerful intuition, unwavering loyalty, and a magnetic yet secretive personality. They are known for their determination and resilience, often thriving in intense situations, but can also exhibit traits like possessiveness, suspicion, or stubbornness. Scorpios are drawn to depth and transformation, preferring meaningful connections over superficiality. So when it comes to that description of a Scorpio, there's a lot in there that I can resonate with, particularly the part about being drawn to depth and transformation. My whole channel, my whole presence on social media, the way I live my life is all centered around the fact that I feel like as humans, we are always ever evolving and we are always growing, and we can do that internal work and try new things and learn more about ourselves in order to evolve and become the 2.0 version of ourselves. So I think that whole mentality that I have in life is super connected to being a Scorpio. So I really resonate with that. And also when I started learning a little more about astrology, I learned that Scorpios are often known as the scorpion, right? They're represented by the scorpion, but they're also represented by the phoenix. And I've always really resonated with the energy and spirituality of the phoenix because, again, it's about going through so many iterations. It's about having these kind of like deaths, as you can call them, so that you can be reborn again. So that part of a Scorpio really resonates with me as well, is just knowing that my spirit animal is a phoenix. That really, really resonates with me. So there are parts of the description of a Scorpio sun that I really resonate with. So that is a little bit about my sun sign. So next we'll move on to a little description about my rising sign, which is Aries. The key traits of an Aries rising are someone who is courageous and bold. So they are natural leaders who are not afraid to take charge and stand up for what they believe in. And they typically have a can-do attitude, which I very much resonate with that. They are energetic and enthusiastic. They possess boundless energy and a fiery, driven spirit, approaching life with a sense of urgency and a passion for new beginnings. Again, like I said, new beginnings, personal growth, expansion, learning more, evolving, that's all part of who I am. So I feel like the Aries, like we talked about, the rising sign is how you are perceived by other people. I feel like my Aries really comes out when I'm making content for YouTube and social media, because I get this really vibrant energy where I just feel like I can fully be myself and just express what I'm feeling through video and through my content. So I feel like that's where the Aries side of me kind of lies. So it's really cool to know that I have an Aries rising, because I feel like that is the part of me that helps make me have the confidence and energy and enthusiasm to show up online and to create content for people. So that's where I resonate with the Aries rising part of me. And the last part I'll touch on a little bit is my moon sign, which is Aquarius. So this is how I kind of have my inner world and my inner thought process is processed through the lens of being an Aquarius moon. Okay, so some of the traits of an Aquarius moon person is someone who is independent. So these individuals value their freedom and individuality, often appearing eccentric like a black sheep. They need a sense of personal space and aren't afraid to be different from others. I can't tell you, that description alone really, really describes me, because as much as I show up on here and I have this energetic personality and create videos and content online, I'm also someone who really needs to have a lot of alone time, more than I would say the average person, to help me process my feelings and to help work on my own personal wellness and how I feel. I'm just someone who really craves alone time a lot. And the black sheep comment, I have felt like that for my entire life, because I feel like I'm someone who typically has a lot of different views and opinions than my peers and the people who are in my life, especially in my younger years. I feel like I just had a hard time really feeling understood by other people, because I just felt like my ideas and my thought processes and the different ways in which I found creativity and my connection with nature, it just wasn't something that super fit into the mold of, you know, being a cool kid in school or something. So I've always just known that I have this sense of individuality and kind of being like a black sheep. And as I've gotten older, I've actually noticed that I've stepped more into that and embraced more of that. And it's the reason I started creating content online, because I feel like the best thing about each and every one of us is our individuality and our different perspectives and our different gifts that we have, that we were born with. And the sooner we can embrace those gifts and not be afraid that we're different, the more we can show up in our most authentic self, the more helpful we can be to people. Well, that's what I've really learned as I've been aging, is that being like a black sheep is actually one of the best qualities that I have, because it's my unique perspectives and views on things that I share with the world that help have other people have their aha moments and help other people learn things that they would have maybe not learned if they hadn't come across my content. So I really relate to that description of being an Aquarius moon and feeling like you're a little bit different, you're a little bit more quirky, you think a little bit more differently than others, but with that, there's so much power and so much gift that comes from that. So there's my astrology knowledge in a nutshell. Like I said, I don't have a ton of knowledge about astrology. I've learned a little bit over the years based on my own sun, moon, and rising signs, and just kind of being a curious person that wants to learn a little more about it, doing some Googling or talking with people who are more knowledgeable about astrology and learning little bits and pieces, but I've never gone as deep as to have a reading. So I am so excited for this reading happening today in a few hours with Jesi. I'm excited to learn more about myself through my astrology. I'm excited to collaborate with Jesi because she is just amazing. I honestly I can't wait for this. I'm so pumped and so excited. I'm going to share some live clips of the reading for you in this video so that you can learn with me in real time. And maybe if you're one of the signs that come up for me, whether it's one of your top 3 signs or whether we have the same house in one of our planetary alignments. But maybe from watching my reading, you can become inspired to learn more about your astrology, or if we have parts of our charts that are in common, you can learn more about yourself as well. So excited. I'll see you soon. Hi.
Hi. Okay, so I'm really excited to do this with you. I think it's going to be really fun. So the first thing I like to do when I'm reading somebody's chart is I just like to first explain a little bit, even before we get to the chart, I want to talk about your profection year, which is basically saying the theme it's the theme of your year. You know,
Okay.
and it's not to do with the calendar year, it's to do with whatever age you are. So, and you were saying that this last year was a little bit like tense, or you've just been going through some stuff the last few months, very intensely with your health and a big move coming up. And so when I was looking at your profection year, I'm like, that totally tracks. So okay. you were in your house, your 10th house, Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, right? A lot of challenges. And you're moving into your 11th house, which to me says that you're moving from this year. And by the way, it's your Jesus year, if you've ever heard of that. Like
Oh,
Jesus year 33 is like this rebirth, it's this death. It's like this death and rebirth and ego death kind of thing
yeah.
that it's asking you to experience. It's like it's like reviving of who you really want to be in the world, because I think it has to do with profection year, really, because you went from your 10th house of like career, and really just like career is a very self-focused house, right? Not in a bad way. It's just like, who do we want to be in the world, and how do we want to create success in our life, and how do we want to impact? And so that was a lot of the energy flowing in your year through like currently what you're in. And then
Yeah.
you're moving into your 11th house, which is more outward focus. It's like networks, communities, friendships, humanitarian efforts, right? It's going from the I to the we. So in order to get from the I to the we have to shed some things. We have to face things, especially you're coming from the 10th house of Saturn, or Capricorn Saturn, which is all about, it restricts and challenges everything that it touches. And it oftentimes brings up repetitive things that you've experienced before. It's kind of like when they say life is moving in a spiral versus a circle. This, if there's something you haven't fully dealt with, Saturn is going to bring that spiral to what feels like a 360 repetition, but it's really just you're seeing it in a new way. And oftentimes, because you're moving into more of a let's make it about how we want to serve in a bigger way, that's going to cause it to come up abruptly, which is why when you were like, why has this last 6 months been great? I think you said 6 months, right?
No, not even the last 6 months. It's just been like the last like few weeks have just been a little bit challenging. But I'd say within the last 6 months, like you were saying, I've been focusing on like, how do I want to show up with my platform, and like, what do I want to be saying, and what do I want to be focusing on? That's totally been like the first half of this year was totally about that. So
Yeah. So I think sometimes when you're coming to, because your birthday's soon, it's coming up. So it makes sense that before you would start that next chapter, it's going to clear out things. It's going to release, it's going to let go of some things, because it does not want you to bring that with you, because that's not for you. So that's actually a really good thing, as crazy and scary as it can be. And out of nowhere, it's like, no, we're clearing the path for you. And mind you, this is also happening for you during a collective 9-year. 2025 is a 9-year. So that's about exactly the same thing: death and rebirth, and shedding and releasing and letting go. And basically it's a preparation year, getting you ready for, like, slingshotting you forward for what you're about to move into. So I know it's been hectic and scary and stressful and all the things at once, but it's totally on track with the energy of the collective, but also your timeline of your year 33 moving into your next year. So I just want to start there, because I want you to know you're not crazy.
yeah, it's so crazy. Like, especially just like the health stuff I'm dealing with. It's nothing huge, but it's just, I'm so used to like feeling this optimal level of health. And then all of a sudden there's like these aches and pains coming, and these like stressors, and like the physical like manifestations of the stress coming through me and my body. And it's so abnormal for me, because I'm someone who's normally so in alignment with like my mindset and my mental health and keeping that all in track. And then it just felt like one decision that I made just kind of like blew up everything. And it's like, oh, okay, this is a lot. So that's what this month has been. This is what August has been for me.
Oh my God. Well, I'm just sending you so much love, because it's a lot. But everything you're saying also tracks. I'm probably going to say that a lot, because what I love about the chart is it's happening whether we believe it or not. So this is probably going to be just like a remembering or a reminder, or a, oh, okay, like I feel seen, like I'm not crazy kind of experience. It's not telling you anything you don't necessarily know. It's just going to be connecting dots.
Yeah.
So I say that because, looking at your 6th house, the 6th house is all about health, wellness, our mental well-being. It's about our daily routines. It's our work. And yours is, Virgo and Libra energies, which are very, like, you could say perfectionist, but it's also just like, you are a routine girl. Like you got your routines down, and your health is important to you. And you really just, like, you probably feel very comfortable, like, being like a healthy person and having that routine locked in your life. So it makes sense that when all of a sudden that is out of whack, you're like, that doesn't track at all. Like, that's not who I am. Where is this coming from? Like, I'm a very healthy person, and I'm also very cognizant of that part of my life. And you've got Jupiter energy in there, which also is the house of, so basically what Jupiter does is it expands anything that it touches. It is good luck. It's optimism. It's bigness. It's fullness. And it's usually that it's like wherever that sits is good luck. So I want you to also keep in mind, like, chances are all of this health stuff is very temporary. It's not really part of your design to experience that. So like the more than a temporary experience of feeling something's going wonky with your health. So first and foremost, like, I just really want to share that. But also keep in mind Jupiter too. It is lucky, and it allows things to flow easier, but it also is going to take, it does take consistent action for that to fully expand in its fullness. So it doesn't mean that it's just like you don't have to do anything. It's like, so if there are some challenges in that area, it's still saying it will work with you. Put some energy towards it, like you're doing, right? You're staying on top of it. You were having some health stuff, but you jumped on it quick and you were consistent, and hopefully it's starting to feel better. That's like the Jupiter energy kind of surrounding that house for you. So very cool. You have a lot of energy in your 10th house, which is career and being seen and stuff. And you also have a couple key placements in there around challenges. So you've got your Saturn in there, and you've got your Lilith in there, and we'll dive into what those mean. But part of the Lilith, for example, where yours is in Capricorn, which, the Lilith is about our deepest desires. It can be a vulnerable spot. It can be a spot where we feel shameful. And it's, so there is like a desire. So with yours in Capricorn, there's this desire to be like really seen, or wanting to just be successful. There's like this desire to be successful, but sometimes we want something so bad that sitting more present for us can be the fear of it, which is fear of failure, fear of, oh my gosh, what if I'm not enough? Or I can't never do enough to be enough, that kind of energy. And so I'm bringing that up right now as we're talking about health, because we're a holistic system, right? We've got all these pieces, but we're all of it. And so if there's this big vulnerable area that is sitting in a key house for you, right? We'll talk about it more, of course. There's so much going on with this big old stellium in your 10th house. But what's important is to know that wound, or I don't want to say it's a wound. That's not technically the wound, like the Chiron, but it is essentially some kind of a wound. It's a thing to work through. It's a shadow aspect of the self that can impact other areas. And so when I was prepping your chart, I was like, it feels like it's a clearing out everything that's going on with your health. But it also, the question came in for me is it felt like a lesson on control, like letting go of control. And sometimes when we're not listening, because if this lesson is, if it's speaking so loudly to you, through your health, chances are this is not the first time the lesson of control for you has probably come in, of just surrendering and letting go and trusting, and so it made me think, right before you get into your next chapter of this, your 34th year, your life and your chart really wants you to get out of your own way, because it's taking you somewhere big. Your chart is destined for something big in your career. We'll talk about it. But it was before you can get there, you've got to get out of your own way. And so the question that came up for me that I want to ask you is, before you started feeling not optimal, what were you doing right before? Do you remember what you were thinking, or was there an event that happened? Anything that made you feel like you were out of control, or just couldn't control the narrative, or you felt helpless?
Yeah, so it happened so shortly before the physical symptoms started showing up. I was making a big decision on a big move coming up, right? And I feel like sometimes where I trip myself up is I feel like I make up this scenario in my head that when I'm going to make a certain big decision, I'm going to have this certain feeling and feel way that I feel about it. And because I didn't feel that way that I thought I was going to feel when I was making the decision, it kind of just I started playing a tug game with myself. I'm saying yes to this thing, but I'm not feeling like it's a full-hearted yes because I have to make a decision very quickly about this thing. And for me, like quick decisions has never been a good thing for me because I'm someone who just needs to like think on something for a while. But with this one decision I was doing, it was like there was multiple people involved and it was like yes or no within 24 hours. And I usually don't make decisions like that. So saying yes and then kind of having that, like, I guess you can call it like a little bit of a spiral of like, I wish I had more time before I said yes to this thing. And then, like you said, that like releasing and surrendering and trusting, that's what I had to start reminding myself of after. It's like, if I'm getting to the point of saying yes to this thing, then I have to trust and surrender and know that it's going to work out fine. But it's just, I think that initial making that decision when it came at a time when I didn't think I would have to make it, it just kind of like jumbled things up for me in my mind, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. And I love that you already like, I'm like, this is so amazing. You already like tuned into all of that. You already were like thinking about this and like, probably so you're just so self-aware, you know?
Well, that's the thing. And it's so funny because being self-aware is like a really powerful thing, but it could also be a detriment at times too, because you're so self-aware that you're like, you feel so much more towards things than other people probably do who aren't as self-aware. They'll just be like, oh, that thing just happened and it's whatever. But it's like, I'm so self-aware that I'm like, that thing happened. And now I sometimes go into like over analyzing mode where I have to really think about like, why did that happen? Is that how it's supposed to happen? And then that really leads into the whole like trust and surrendering to the universe thing, which I'm usually pretty good at. But sometimes, like anybody, you know, we're all human. We have our, you know, our pitfalls. And sometimes I can get into that space of I'm not trusting right now because I'm spiraling instead, right?
Yeah.
So like catching yourself in that pattern.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, part of what you're saying too, I think is reflected in your eighth house. You've got Mercury in there, which is a pretty big one to have anywhere because Mercury is like our conscious, what we're interested in and what we like to talk about and think about. But when you have yours in the eighth house, which I'm like, honestly, thank God you have the Sagittarius energy in there to kind of lighten it up because Sagittarius is fun. It's optimistic. It's like, you know, it's adventurous. It's like wants to see the world. It's philosopher, you know, it's like, it's that energy. So thank God, because it does add that balance, but it also probably heightens the like speed because it's fiery, right? It's got all this speed and passion towards the mental energy. But when you've got that going towards the eighth house of death and rebirth and transformation, like you're somebody who is probably thinking, and it's ruled by Scorpio. So it's like this intensity, right? There's an intensity to your mind. There's an intensity to your thoughts, but it's also not just for yourself. You're probably somebody who can see 5 steps ahead of everybody you're interacting with. You can, you can't do surface. And so if you're like in surface level conversations or something, you're like, not, it's like not that you're not present, but you're like, let's get to the good stuff because I can kind of see there's other things going on.
That's the Scorpio in me for sure, because it's all about death and rebirth, but also just like super deeply connecting with people. Those are like, that's me to a T.
Yes. And then your ascendant, your rising is in Aries. So it's like, you know, the truth of who you are is like, you've not only got this passionate energy towards like the real depth of like, let's really talk about real stuff, you know, or maybe even like the occult or just like the shadowy side of life and just all that stuff. But then you match it with the truth. I mean, so you you are a Scorpio, but then the rising sign is this like this fiery Aries.
Yes.
Who, like, want to tell the world, you know, like you want to lead, you want to be like first. You have this like drive about you, you know. So it's like, it's also, there's like a level of patience that's required with that kind of energy that might be a little bit hard, and also might be something that is like bleeding into other areas of your life. So that could be a potential like theme for you, is just and probably part of why you realized, oh, I have to pause and think through things before I make a decision. And why, like when that caused all that turmoil with having to move so quickly, is probably because you're so self-aware, right? With that Mercury in 8th house, that you're like, oh no, I know I'm going against myself. This isn't okay. And like, it can cause a freak out, but you've got this true self of yourself, with this Aries, it's like, okay, but I want to go. I want to, so it's like this
Yeah.
constant, it must be exhausting.
It's like a pull and pull and push. Yeah. It's like sometimes the unexpected throws me off, right? And I have to like remind myself that like everything happens for a reason and everything's unfolding in perfect time, but my mind doesn't automatically trust that all the time in every situation. So I have to like remind myself and bring myself like back down to earth and ground myself a bit and remind myself that everything's unfolding as it should, but it doesn't always come as easily in certain situations.
For sure, for sure. And another thing I really want to talk about. So you have a very interesting placement. You've got your South Node actually right on your IC, and it's also in Cancer. Both are in Cancer. Now, your South. So we'll start with the South Node and North Node. So your South Node is like where you're comfy, right? It's like when life gets hard and pushes you towards your North Node, which is the uncomfy part. That is where we retreat to. That's where we want to go and like just be. And your life is pushing you to Capricorn North Node, but you're like a Cancer South Node. And so basically that's like the main thing that's saying is like, to me at least, especially because you have it sitting directly on your IC line, which is like inner child kind of stuff. It's like, it was our childhood, how what philosophies we developed as we grew older, like what we took from our childhood. And to me, this is saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it says a little bit like what you learned growing up was like, it's safer to be at home than safer to be in the world. And so sometimes being out front, sharing yourself can be scary. It can be, it can feel intimidating because your life is wanting you to be this strong Capricorn, this leader, this highly accomplished person in your career specifically. But when we're like feeling like, I don't know, when there's so much going on mentally and there's so much fire and there's so much like things that you can see, sometimes it just feels too much. Sometimes our mind can just feel like there's too much. And so what can happen is you can retreat, and instead of focusing on your stuff and your goals, it can be easier to focus on everybody else around you and want to nurture everybody else. And like, just, that's where you feel safest. So let me know if that makes sense so far.
I guess a little bit, like I'm trying to think of like childhood stuff. I know specifically in my childhood, there was a lot of feelings I had that I did not know how to process at that time. So I just like shut away and didn't think about it. So that's what's like coming to mind as you're explaining that, like maybe the focus on other things or other people or other situations, like whether it was like in high school when I had a job and I would just go from school to work and just like know that when I kept myself busy physically, that I didn't have to focus as much on the mental side of things. Like that was a lot of part of my coping mechanism when I was younger.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes sense then. So yeah, your life is just saying, and everybody's obviously like, it'll be different. You know your childhood. So pick what resonates. But more than anything, when we have a Cancer as our South Node and a Capricorn in our North Node, there is saying that it is going to be saying that we're going from like, our life is pushing us to be from like comfy and just like the nurturer and giving to everybody else to moving more towards this empowered, you could say hashtag boss babe, but like more empowered individual who gets to become more of the front person, of your life versus maybe, I don't know, when you were younger, like maybe you didn't feel like the star of the show. Maybe you didn't feel like you were the one that mattered. Maybe you felt like it was everybody else came first kind of thing, or like maybe you were the natural nurturer, especially because you've got some big placements that show like you're an old soul with your Saturn in Aquarius, and some pretty big transformation. Like with the Mercury in the 8th house. So it's like you were probably somebody that maybe had to be the voice of reason fairly young. Maybe that could have been a thing. But also I'm intrigued because, and we'll talk more about that as we talk about your career and stuff, because there's so much I want to get into there. But before we do, it's kind of interesting because before you can get to where your career is taking you, we've got to work through some of and that's what I think is coming up for you right now before you transition to your 34th year, is it's wanting you to like face some, if you haven't already, but I'm guessing you have because you're so self-aware and you do the work. But there's this Chiron in the 5th house, and it's in Leo, which is cozy. Leo loves the 5th house. It's a ruler of the 5th house. So Chiron is the like the wounded healer. It's the wound that we came in with to heal. What I love about astrology is it's like, let's just tell you the thing instead of making you go search for it. Let me just, here's the wound you have to work on.
Okay. Cool.
So we, this is the thing is, I don't think we ever overcome our Chiron and our wound forever, but what happened, or ever, like, I think we're always working on it because it's a part of our blueprint. But I think what happens is we can overcome it in such a powerful way. Like we get so much life experience with it to where we go from feeling like we have to overcome it to we kind of become a mastery of understanding its place in our life and how to work with it. And so through that, you can then help other people navigate that thing. And that's why I think you personally, I think life is asking you to look at some of these things, or you're feeling called to do a session like this, because I think you are starting to move into that next chapter where your career is about to really move in the way that you want, and start moving in that direction, because you've got Saturn sitting there, which is delaying. It's the delayer of gratification. We got to make you really embodied before you can teach, before you can, really like go where you want to go in life. So part of that, like, coming into that next chapter for yourself is, let's talk about the Chiron in the 5th house. So the 5th house is about play. It's about pleasure. It's about sex. It's about dating. It's about children. It's like, it's the fun house. It's the romance house. It's you could call it a love house too, but and you have your wound sitting there. So the wound, like a wound in Leo, is pretty much like about being seen. There's like something, if you haven't navigated this yet or played with this yet, I'm going to guess you have, because you talk about, actually, a lot of your content, I notice you do like have this lighthearted, like, I just want to play and be in nature and like really surrender, And so it sounds like you've kind of gravitated towards what's actually going to help heal this wound already. But yeah, it's like the sense of maybe not really being appreciated for who you truly are. Maybe feeling like you're misunderstood in some way, or just, maybe face a lot of criticism for your talents, and just like, it's kind of one of those energies where it's like, you felt so excited, and maybe there's this naive energy when you're little, and you're like, look at me, like, look at all my talents. And then somebody didn't, or somebody like shut it down, or somebody, like, it doesn't have to be when you were little. But it is part of the lower houses, so it tends to be like earlier in life, or like the building blocks of you before you get out into the world with the other houses. So it just says that there's a little bit of maybe a wounding or something there in the being seen area, which could affect how you show up, in what you're wanting to do with your YouTube channel and your brand and your content.
I think the fear of being seen, I think, is something that's been something I've had to face a lot over the last few years. Well, pretty much ever since I started this platform, like Living My 2.0, I started it on Instagram, and I had to really face a lot in the beginning of like the fear of being seen, because I was, sharing my story. I was sharing how I struggled with anxiety and all those things, and trying to, establish myself as the leader and guide to help people who have anxiety. And then at some point, like over the last couple of years, I kind of stopped resonating with that path that I was on of being like the life coach for anxiety, being the anxiety coach. And then I kind of went through this lull of like, I don't know who I am or how I have to show up on this platform, because I don't know like what the purpose is right now. And then it was only really within the last few months that I started reviving my YouTube channel and making it what it is now. And it came from, I am kind of tying this and relating this to the fear of being seen, because I think before, any content I was making, whether it was on Instagram or YouTube, was all about showing up as the professional and like, who am I when I make content? And then I spoke with a really intuitive friend, and she had said to me, why don't you just, make YouTube videos about stuff that makes you happy and stuff that interests you, and like, don't make yourself have this title of like what you are. Like you don't have to be a life coach, or you don't have to be whatever it is, and just be you. And that was like a huge light bulb moment for me, that I had never thought about that. And it kind of seems crazy. I'm like, why can't I just be someone who just makes a video that lights me up? And like that, the byproduct of doing that is going to inspire other people and reach other people, or do whatever it's supposed to do. But I don't have to give myself this really rigid title and put myself in this box of I can only make content about these certain things, which is, you know, I've been following that path now for, I guess, the last few months, like, and ever since I chose to just be myself on YouTube, I've been like consistently having video ideas like every single week. And before, I struggled with that. I didn't know what to create, and it felt like a challenge. And now I know that before the end of every single weekend, I'm going to have another idea that comes up that like sustains my passion and like what I'm doing right now. And that's been really, really cool. And that's, yeah, just been a recent thing within the last couple months that I've been doing. And I'm like, this is so cool. And that was the, you know, catalyst for this idea too, is like, wouldn't it be so cool to do a video about astrology? Because that's something that I want to learn more about, that I think a lot of people would find interesting as well. And it gives me the chance to collaborate with you, which I love collaborating with you and other people too, and, you know, making those connections. So yeah, it's only really been the last couple months that I've been, you know, really focusing on not worrying about like the title or how I am perceived by other people, and just showing up being me. And I think that's what's given me, you know, the permission slip to just be myself. And I think that kind of ties into the fear of being seen too, because I haven't felt that fear of being seen over the last couple months while I've been on this like this train of just like all these ideas coming up and following them and just doing them because they're fun. And it's like kind of stripped away that any sort of fear about like being seen, because I'm just being me, you know?
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And I literally like, I want to hug that friend who gave you that advice, because that's everything that anybody needs to hear. Like, that's so beautiful. But also like without even knowing your chart, like that is literally how you heal that wounding. That I hate to tell people like you have a wound, but like Chiron in your chart, the wound of the chart, you know, that is it also how you heal that, because fifth house is also about creativity. And putting our creative pursuits into the world. And it doesn't have to, yes, for you, it ties to your career, which makes sense with your Saturn in Aquarius, but also you like just the idea of creating to create. You are somebody, especially again, the Saturn Aquarius, you cannot be in a box. You will eventually blow up that box, because you're like, I can't be in this box. So it's like, even if you had tried to label yourself to make it make sense for others, or even for yourself, like you wouldn't have been happy. There wouldn't have been a fulfillment piece there. And there would have been a lingering probably question of, do people like me? You know, because you weren't serving yourself. And even though you're here to serve, you know, humanity in a bigger way, you have this potential for serving, you know, in a much bigger way than just yourself. It's not about you, but you are the vessel that this comes through. So, you know, it's like your energy has to feel good to you and clean and exciting, and you have to want to do the work to stay consistent with it. So, beautiful. Let's get into these top three, the 9th, 10th, 11th house. So, this is just, it's just saying immediately when I see Saturn in the 10th house, it's like, okay, you are going to have your biggest life lessons through the 10th house, because it's constant. The lessons are probably constant in the sense that if you don't learn them, like you're going to have to face them again, and they're going to get louder and louder. And with Saturn in Aquarius, it's also a very like, it's rebellious. It's like you're here to do things different. It's probably feeling like a bit of an outsider. You know, feeling very like just you don't fit in, or like maybe outwardly watching like groups, you know, feeling like you're not part of the group. But then if you get the invitation, you're such, you know, individualism is so strong with Saturn in Aquarius, and Aquarius especially, that it's like, even if you got the invite, you're like, actually I'm good. Like I kind of like want to be more like by myself, but it's more like you just want the invite to feel included and feel thought of. But it's also, so Saturn, even though it challenges and restricts everything it touches, which creates delayed gratification, which is why it makes sense that maybe your career specifically has felt like you've just until now really didn't know what you wanted to do. Maybe you felt like it was so hard to choose, or you felt like, okay, I'm like gung-ho in one direction, and then you're like, nope, actually I'm like gung-ho in this direction, and then it changes because it's also ruled by Uranus, which Uranus is insane. Uranus is the craziest planet ever because it's there to like rebel and change and mess up the status quo, and it's so individual and it wants to change the planet, and it does, but it does it in such a sporadic, there's so many quick changes that it's like, and that's energy sitting in your ninth house. So that's more of like, you're just like, that's a little bit different than, the energy of the 10th house, but it is that energy is also in your 10th house at the same time of career. So it's just saying that your career was not meant to really take off and be what it is until like now onward. It's like this is all by design. So if you felt like, oh, it's been slow, or like, why am I not there yet? That's why.
Yeah.
And also because so Saturn in Aquarius in my eyes is like an old soul. It's like you've been here a million times. You like like you're comfortable with the death and rebirth, the transformation, the deep stuff, that's like you're like comfy there.
Yeah.
And so what that's saying is part of the delay of getting where you want to go in your career is because like it's a humanitarian kind of energy, right? It's like you're meant to serve in a bigger way with your work specifically. And so that's not something you get to soon in life, right? Like that's not like I made it there in my 20s because, because you're like supposed to go through the mud a bit. You're supposed to go through things so that you can embody them because you're a teacher.
Yes.
You're a teacher, so you're here to really teach what you know through embodiment because you're meant to hold people, and that's a responsibility. And life is not going to just like your chart is just not going to let you have that yet until you've refined. It doesn't, and again, with all these, like this is stuff we work on our whole life. So it doesn't mean that you have to have mastered the lesson of Saturn, aka the father, in your chart. Like it doesn't mean you have to have mastered that 100% before you can experience that success in your life. But it's saying that it's going to be delayed and it wants to refine you quite a bit before it will allow you the rewards. And what can speed that up is if you're tuned into what is Saturn teaching me? What is Saturn asking me to do? And I think Saturn in Aquarius, especially because it's sitting really closely to your Lilith, around this idea of like being enough, and like acceptance. I think it's like asking you to work on you being the one, and I'm sure you've already been doing this, but in order for that to speed up a little bit, it's like you really working on being the one who's enough in your life and not needing that outward approval because you didn't come here for outward approval. Saturn in Aquarius and all this energy towards your 10th house and your MC in Capricorn, like you did not come here to be somebody that is part of the status quo, one of the regular sheep. Like you came to stand out, honestly. Yeah. So it's a journey to not only do that, but to feel comfortable with that, especially when your North Node, the thing that you are here to learn and master, is in your 10th house, your Capricorn. Like that's going to take some time for that to feel like you're in more mastery of it. When it's going to take a second to feel like, okay, like I do feel empowered in who I am. Like one of the whole main purposes you're here is to learn to go from nurturing everybody else to individual, accomplish, successful. So it's inevitable you are going to be. And in a probably a big way because of the Aquarius chilling with the Saturn right there. Like it's going to be like, I feel like what you're doing with your channel is so on point. It's like helping the masses with these deeper conversations, is like so a part of your design, your blueprint. So before I get into the next thing, do you have any questions?
I don't think I have any questions. I just think it's all making a lot of sense. I know the last year, like I said, from like pretty much from my last birthday up until now, a huge theme has been a feeling of not being enough. That was like a huge theme, a huge belief that I worked through specifically over the last, like, I'd say like 8 or 9 months. And I've made so much progress in that. And I feel like I did get to the point. And I feel like that's why the whole change in my YouTube channel kind of came up as well, because that, I don't think that could have shown up for me until I did a lot of work on that fear and like that feeling of not being enough. Like once I stepped into like I am enough, that's when like the whole clarity around my content and what I want to be putting out there came from that. So that's like definitely a huge theme that's been a part of my last year for sure.
Amazing. That's amazing. See, like I just love that you do the work and you're so tuned in. And it's like, that's also makes sense why this stuff is coming in now, because like with Saturn, it's like, for some people, it's like they're going to hit all these things, but maybe in their 40s or 50s or, and it's like not bad. That's not a bad, there's no good or bad. It's just like, how quickly do you want to move through some things or, by being like, how self-aware do you want to be? How much are you willing to face all of this stuff? So I just want to commend you, you're really doing the work and moving your life forward. But again, there's no rush, but it feels exciting. Like the energy around all this for you. I think for you, as long as you're making it fun, like all the revelations you just shared earlier, right? It's like, as long as your work is fun and it makes you feel alive, then you're going to be able to be consistent and show up for yourself and your chart and your business and your dreams and make them real. I know it's a lot of intense energy, so it doesn't surprise me that a career is like you being an entrepreneur is like such a focus and trying to figure it out, because rightfully so. There's a lot of mixed energies in there. We've got Saturn challenging you. We've got your Lilith being like, your deepest vulnerabilities chilling in there. And then we've got your dreamy self who's like, well, let's just do it all. And then we've got your North Node, which is like, you've never mastered that ever. So it's like, okay, we're going to dream it and we're going to try. We're going to try our best, but like, it's exhausting. It's exhausting. So I say all that to say, also be kind to yourself. Like, give yourself grace. And maybe, for your 9th house, we've got your crazy Uranus in there, which just says also like, so 9th house is about, it's like travel and it's about philosophy and it's about researching and learning. And basically it's like, what are we doing with all the transformation that we've just learned in the 8th house? It's like, what do we want to do with all of that? And so maybe for you, if you ever feel really overwhelmed about this, you might do really well. It's like taking a solo trip. I think for you, like you're going to probably, with this placement, you might get the most out of taking yourself on like a long distance trip. 9th house is about long distance travel. So maybe like an international something, or you could plan something like that, for yourself in the like near future, to just kind of like celebrate yourself or to decompress or something. But I think for you, solo is like where you probably feel the most like fulfilled in that.
That's so funny that you're saying that, because I've had this idea in my head for the last couple months that I just want to, and I didn't tell myself it has to be somewhere really far, but I just had this like feeling like I want to do kind of like this solo like self-care weekend away or something, like just booking like a really beautiful like Airbnb or something and just going by myself and just letting myself be and just do whatever I want, whether it's like meditating or like dancing around to some music and just like being with myself, because I've never taken a solo trip before. I've always been like, I've been in a relationship now for like, I've been with my partner for, we just had our 17-year anniversary. We've always traveled together, or I've traveled with family. And it's like, I've never actually done a solo trip. And I just had this like download recently where I'm like, wouldn't it be so cool to just go somewhere by myself and just like be by myself, and just whatever happens, like if I feel inspired to like do photography or film something, I'll just do it, but like not give myself any sort of assignment, just do it, like, so that's definitely been like on my to-do list for sure.
Oh my God. This is when life is so fun, because it's so full of synchronicities, and you had the nudge on your heart. So it's like, follow your excitement. That was actually something I wrote for you when I was doing this planning, was like, follow your excitement. Seems like the theme of your life is like, what's going to create the most success for you is like just following your excitement when you get those nudges. And that's coming in right from you being tuned in, but also slowing down and not letting your Aries fiery self kind of take the charge and make you impatient and like move you too fast. Have that fiery energy, but use it in other ways that are going to help you, yeah, wherever, like what I love about Aries is you can really allow yourself to intentionally decide, like, because that's your true self. So you're really connected to that fiery, passionate energy. So it's like leverage it in the ways that are going to most help you. And learn to tone it down when you're in these places of wanting to, yeah, like really connect with yourself and figure out like what's best for you. I'm kind of rambling, but no, I just love that you already were feeling tuned into that and you're honoring that and like allow yourself that gift.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's been so cool, this reading in general, just because I kind of filmed a little sequence before this just on my own of like what I do know about astrology. And I really only knew like my big three. That's like my only reference point of like what I know about my chart. And I just feel like a lot of the things we touched on, I can like see where those different parts of me are showing up, right? Like when we talked about certain things, I'm like, that's the Scorpio side of me. And then like, that's the Aries rising part. And then that's the Aquarius moon, like the feeling of feeling like you don't belong, like you're the black sheep. It's like all those things are kind of like tying in together with all of these placements that we've been talking about here. So it's been so cool just to learn more and to like go deeper into all of this.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And yeah, I think one of my favorite parts about all this is like it just helps you fall in love with yourself. Because you get to understand yourself in a deeper way. So it's just it's really beautiful. And I love that you did that.
Thank you so much for this reading. It's been so enlightening, and I've just enjoyed learning more about my chart so much. I feel like this is like, I feel like you're so good at this. Like your energy, you're just so tuned in. You just were on point. You were just a wealth of information, and I just feel like I've learned so much from this call. So I love it. Thank you so much. And if you can share where other people can find you, and if they want to book one of these readings with you, I would love for you to just share how people can reach out.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was honestly so fun for me. So I'm just really grateful. So yeah, people can find me on Instagram at Life Design by Jesi, or my website is just lifedesignbyjesi.com. And then to just make it really confusing, my YouTube is at In Your Favor with Jesi. So yeah, if anybody wants to book there, they can just find the link on my website or personally message me, and I would be happy to personally send them a link as well.
Awesome. Sounds amazing. Well, I will also put all of your links in the description of my video as well. And I know you and I are both working on growing our YouTube channels. So I would love for everyone to also go to your channel and subscribe. And yeah, I feel like we're just so in alignment with the things we're working on right now. We're both like chasing our authenticity, following our passions. And I'm just so grateful to have been able to collaborate with you in this way. So thanks again for this beautiful gift of this reading.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored.
Just finished my reading with Jesi. That was so insightful, so informative, and honestly so empowering. I feel like I had so many things that were on my mind that were just reaffirmed from this reading. And I learned so much more about myself and who I am and what I'm going through from the lens of my astrology. And it's so cool because, like I said at the beginning of this video, I only had a very basic knowledge of my chart and my astrology. And now I feel like I get to walk away with so many more insights and so much more knowledge than I had before. So many things throughout that conversation just made so much sense. And I think it's going to be really interesting when I edit this video together, because I feel like a lot of the things that I had said in the intro of this video about my understanding about my chart, I feel like she echoed some of those things in the reading as well. So yeah, it just feels very in alignment, and I feel like everything she shared today were things that I needed to hear, and I just really, really enjoyed that. I'm glad that I took this time to learn more about my astrology. I think it's super interesting, and it's such a cool thing to dive into. So If you're ever interested in learning more about your own chart and your own astrology, I highly recommend checking Jesi out and booking a call with her. She is a wealth of knowledge, as you can see from watching this video, watching my reading. She just knows so much about this, and if you're wanting any sort of confirmation or you're just on a journey to learn more about who you are and why you're here and what your purpose is and the different life challenges that you may face along your journey, she can tell you all of that with one of her readings. So I highly recommend checking her out. I'm going to put all her information in the description of this video so you can go check her out. Make sure to subscribe to her YouTube channel as well. And I really love that. My heart is so full right now. I feel so inspired and so happy with how that went. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you enjoyed this experience of getting to know more about me and my journey and what I'm working on, but also learning more about astrology and how readings work. And I hope that you will also book a call with Jesi, because I feel like it'll be super informative and transformative for you on your journey as well. Also, just an FYI as well, if you want to hear the entire reading, Jesi is going to be posting a podcast episode with my reading. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!